Okay, welcome back to part two of doing boss killing in Leaf Blower Revolution with Auto Hotkey. Welcome back to your Auto Hotkey journey with Jason Altenberg. All right, so I've booted up real quick here. I just created a new Auto Hotkey script, and by that I mean after Auto Hotkey is installed, basically anywhere in Windows, you can right-click, select New, just like you're creating a brand new file. You can create a new Auto Hotkey script. And what I wanted to point out by doing this is that your default Auto Hotkey script will come loaded with all of this right here. And I wanted to point out that send mode input is listed in that file. But with the game Leaf Blower Revolution, one thing I've noticed is that my send mode must be event in order for me to be able to do the things that I want to do inside of this game. It simply just doesn't click well. The clicks don't register correctly. And also, we are using the client coordinate mode, which is right here. As you can see, this client number. So when I was pointing out the window earlier, it might be just a little bit off, but it's really not by a whole heck of a lot. I mean, I think we're talking about a total of like 10 pixels on your X and about 20, 30 on your Y. So you might have to play with your scripts a little bit. You might need to adjust those depending on if you're going to use the window coordinate mode, the client coordinate mode, or how you're going to do that. But ultimately what you need to know is that there are different types of send modes, and for different types of games, what you're going to find is that the send modes or the coordinate modes need to be slightly different in order to get these working with your game. So don't worry about it if your game isn't quite reacting the way that you want it to. You should be able to get things rolling just by toying with those options. All right, so up here I wanted to point out too that when I was talking earlier about the arrays that I'm declaring these global arrays up here. And so the syntax for that is just simply global, then the name of the array, colon equals, then you've got your curly brace, and then your string or your key, however you want to call your piece of information, and then your piece of information, which in this case is a string 1296.282 followed by a comma. The comma is what's separating out these individual pieces. So we could call different things there, but we're not really going to be going into too much modification or development of this script in this video. Really, this is all just going to be about how this works in and of itself. And now that I'm looking at it, though, maybe we'll develop out this alt Q real quick, as I've been reformatting the way that this script works. As again, you can see the Z, or the main boss killing loop here, was doing some things like selecting the damage set, etc. And now we have these nice little custom functions that we can put in place of those. So instead of saying something like select damage set, which is sleep 100, send input P, sleep 500, I can simply call this function leaf set with the P parameter. And if I scroll down, what we can see is that leaf set down here, it takes a type input. And so the type input here, it's going to grab that variable, which is the P value, and not to be confused with the statistics P value, but the value of P as a string. It then sleeps for 200 milliseconds. It then sends the input, which is again the percent space, and then it calls the variable, and that variable is going to send the letter P, and then we're going to sleep for 200 milliseconds, and then we're going to come right back up to our next set of commands. So instead of typing it up here, the advantage of this is that instead of typing that over and over and over again, if I wanted to do this 4 times in a row, I could simply do it just like that. Or I could just, my function could do it 4 times down there. It really just depends on how you wanted to make that work. All right, so now we've got V, we're teleporting to the bridge here, we're sending input escape, we're sleeping for 5,000. And what I'm going to do there is instead of teleporting to the bridge using this, I can now simply type tele, and then parentheses, quote, bridge. And then that's going to do the same thing, right, as this, tele to the bridge. Tele to the bridge, as you might recall, it's going to tele to the location, or teleport to location, and it's going to do the tooltip heading to this location, sleep, send input, sleep, and click LB area location, click LB area. I have this clicking twice actually, because sometimes I've noticed that they don't quite register on that first click. So a double click in this area doesn't hurt anything, doesn't harm anything, and it allows this script to at least fire or give it another shot before it just backs out. But here again is your send input escape. It updates the tooltip to let you know which area you're hanging out inside of. Sleeps for 2,750 milliseconds, which that's why I put this hanging out in, so I know that this portion of the script is already fired. Now we're hanging out for 2,750 milliseconds. All right, so we can take that same logic here, and as you can see, this is right now quite the lengthy little chunk of code. We can take that and we can remove this, and so our telly can now be to Vilewood. Okay. You can see the nice syntax highlighting here too, because not only does it syntax highlight, but Sublime is also give me some predictive values based on what that array is up there and what's already been written out here. So we want to go to lone tree now. We want to swap to what our which essence multiplier set. So leaf set is O. I have this bound to a hotkey inside of the game itself, because the game itself actually does have some programmability here. You can see if I click here and click on hotkeys down towards the bottom. I have load craft set what bound to O, load craft set 2 bound to P. So that's why I'm selecting O and P there. It's really not, it's really just because of the way that I have my hotkeys bound inside of the game. All right, Cursed Cocoa Punny. Now we can take this one right here. We can do telly, Cursed Cocoa, and then go to first favorite in list. Telly. And then we're going to do first favorite. End quotes, end parentheses, and return. So if all goes well with this, basically if I hit Shift Z, I should get one cycle of damage, bridge, Vilewood, lone tree, witch set, Cursed Cocoa Punny, first favorite. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save on this. And now I'm going to go down to my system tray, and I'm actually going to reload this script, which I could actually accomplish with a hotkey. The more that I'm thinking about it, the more I do want to do that, as I've been clicking this an awful lot. All right, so now we've saved it, we've reloaded it, and so Shift Z should be calling on these different functions. And one way that we know that that's certainly happening is that our tooltip will begin to update, which again, recall, the previous version of this script did not have the tooltip enabled. And as you can see, heading to the bridge, hanging out in bridge, hanging out in Vilewood. Okay, so our script is executing, and it should only go through this cycle one time. We switch to our craft set for the witch, and now we are back home. We're back home in the leaf tower, which is currently our first favorite in the game. Now, you must know that this is very much dependent on certain coordinates inside of the game that I have picked out with the Windows Spy application. I have this set on a specific monitor for a specific size, and that if you tried to do this on your PC, that you would likely get not so great results, especially given that the game might update, maybe in a different resolution, your screen might be different. There are just a ton of different variables. So just know that these click areas up here, these are very specific to the way that I have the game set up on my screen, but that doesn't mean that you can't set up your own set of arrays based on what your screen is like, depending on the game that you're playing. Now, this next part here, let's look at this Alt Q. So this bang or exclamation point is the Alt key and then the letter Q. What this one is actually going to do is this is going to click on a specific area. In other words, right here it says mouse get pause. And so mouse get pause is actually grabbing the current area that the mouse is in. And one way that I could illustrate that is to, let's do a message box, MSG box. And I'm going to do the percent sign, and we're going to do MX, period, comma, this is concatenating, and then period, and MY. And I'm actually going to illustrate a concept that I was talking about a moment here ago. Message box, and then percent mx percent. This is different. Percent my. Okay, so you'll see that this is concatenating, and it's going to show up this way when I first run it, and then it's going to show up the other way when I run it secondly. All right, so we're going to move this over just a little bit. Maybe we can do this, actually. I'm hoping that that'll work. It's not going to stay on top, though. Okay, so the reason that I wrote this script is because right now, the way that this... all right, I saved it. I'm going to reload the script. Again, that's very important once we make our changes, is that currently what I wanted to do is in this big menu full of icons here, these are the cards. The main thing that you need to know, though, is that what I can do is I can click down here to click Transcend. And this transcends the card, it reduces the count. And then what I want to do is hold down Alt and salvage these cards over here, and then click on the next one, which doesn't sound like a big deal until you realize that every about 10 minutes or so, I need to do that for this row, and this skull right here. So all of these I need to come in here and click Transcend, Alt, salvage them all, click the next one, Transcend, salvage them all, and do that, repeatedly. So Alt Q, it's going to say 814, this is concatenating 402. That's our first message box. 814, this is different 402. That's giving us our current coordinates, 814, 402. And see, I'm right here on this little crab guy. So what I'm going to do also to help illustrate what's happening here is I'm going to pop open our window spy, slide him right over to here, and I'm going to put him just over to the right here. Okay, so, oh, well, I'm sorry too. We're going to run that one more time because I just realized that you guys didn't see the boxes pop up. So I'm going to drag those onto the screen. My apologies. Alt Q. Here's our first box. 817, this is concatenating 400. Okay. 817, this is different, 400. And then I'm going to bring that window spy back up. And when I bring the window spy back up, what we'll see is that I can hover over this area, and it's just about 817, 400. See the client area there is saying 808 through 57, 813 or so, 817. Let's try and get it. I think, yeah, see how it's window there though? Yeah, so I've been mostly just using this window coordinates to help guide me to where it is. So our coordinate mode is client, but it seems like this game, the window coordinates are a little bit more accurate. The whole idea here though is that it's grabbing this location, right? So it grabs that location and it stores it as a couple of variables that I can then do whatever I want with, right? And what I'm doing in this instance is I'm actually just giving those coordinates. Oh, apparently I'm launching another application here. My bad. Oops, let's try that one more time. Alt Q. And I'm just going to hit enter, enter on those message boxes, and you can see them fire off there, and it does that. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pop my card display back open. I'm going to bring back up the auto hotkey script. I'm going to now remove, oh, keep doing that to my recording. I keep clicking on the recording instead of clicking on the actual window that I'm actually trying to click on. Part of this too, I've just been deciding that I'm just going to start firing these videos out a little bit more rapidly, and mistakes and all, warts and all. We're just going to try and get this content out there, rather than getting super hyper fixated on the idea of, oh, it's got to be perfect every time. Let's not do that. Let's just get it done. All right. So file, save. Okay, mouse get position, MXMY, sleep, click in this spot. Again, it's that double click just to make sure it's actually doing the thing. It's going to send Alt down, so it holds Alt, it clicks in the second spot, 1460, 700, sends Alt up. In other words, it's going to lift the Alt key so that we're not holding that Alt key down. Then it's going to take the X position here. It's going to increment that by 60. It's going to sleep. Then it's going to move the mouse to the new position, which should be 60 pixels to the right. Then it's going to sleep a little bit, and then it's going to click. And notice that I only click once here. I'm actually going to take that and do it one more time, because again, what I've noticed is it just doesn't hurt to click twice, and it doesn't hinder anything either. So I'm going to save it. I'm going to reload my script. Then we're going to minimize it. I'm going to click in here and we're going to start pressing Alt Q. Alt Q, transcend and salvage. Oh, it didn't fire. See, even with the double click there, didn't quite fire. Not a huge deal though. All right, so much better though. You can see this is much preferable to manually clicking each and every one of these. This is another reason why I had all the leaves turned off in the game, is that it seems like the less that's going on the screen, the more reliable it is to send these events to the window itself. But this is saving me from carpal tunnel, this repetitive motion, this is infinitely annoying set of routines that I need to go through just to salvage these cards, which again, not a huge deal. This is an idle game. It's meant to be that way a little bit. But I think that the script definitely helps me feel like I'm not doing these repetitive actions and I'm actually able to have a little bit more fun watching the game increment, watching the game get played, and not having to manually interact with it as much or worry that I'm not getting as much progress because I'm not manually interacting with the game. All right, I'm going to wrap it up for here. If you enjoyed this video, if you think that it's helpful or it's useful, I'd appreciate it if you could throw a comment down there. Tell me what kind of games you'd like to see me automate. Tell me what you're curious about with auto hotkey. When you think about an auto clicker, is this what you're thinking? Or do you think that you need some sort of a GUI? Because I'm thinking about developing one. All right, and so we'll see you in the next time. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good jazz. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening. And thanks for watching these auto hotkey tutorials with Jason Altenberg.